You ever notice that people don't get nervous about what's public? They always seem to get nervous about what isn't public, because if everything is above board, if everything checks out, if everything can stand on its own, you release it, right? No hesitation, no delay. It gets put out there. But when information starts getting held back, when documents don't come out, when access gets limited, delayed, or even blocked, that is when people that have common sense start asking questions. And I mean legitimate questions. And that is exactly where we are right now in Baltimore. And so we're going to call this segment the Brandon Files. Now, let's be clear from the beginning. This is not about attacking Brandon Scott as a person. That's not my goal. This is about something that is significantly bigger. It's called transparency in leadership, because when you're running a city, especially a city like Baltimore, plagued with issues, plagued with problems, plagued with scandal, you do not get the luxury of selective openness. Get where I'm going with this. You don't get to decide as a leader, this part the public can see and this part they don't need to know. So here's the deal. Public office does not work like that, or at least it's not supposed to. So now the conversation becomes, what exactly is in these files that Brandon Scott does not want the public to see? And let's just be truthful. Why haven't they been released? And here's the thing. Even before you know what's inside, the decision not to release them is already a problem, whether you like it or not. Here is something that we have to keep in mind, okay? Transparency is not just about reacting to pressure. And I think that is where the confusion comes in. It's about building trust before the pressure even starts. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't do that. What I'm simply saying is now the soup is starting to stick to the spoon. And what are you going to do when people start asking the questions? And right now, let's just be truth. Trust is exactly what is on the line in Baltimore. When information is withheld, no matter who's withholding it, people fill in the blanks for themselves. In my day, they called that tried in the court of public opinion. And when you do that, people start guessing, and those guesses usually land in one place, and one place only. It must be worse than what they are saying. So now, whether that's true or not, that perception becomes reality. And perception, especially in politics, is a powerful tool and situation for not only the wrong people to get a hold of, but for right folks to start digging in the right place. When how do I say this? Because once the public starts believing they're not getting the full story, I think this is the best way to say this. Everything that you say and do starts to get questioned. Statements that you make, questioned. Press conferences that you stand up and take, questioned. What are your intentions? Questioned. And now you're not just managing a situation, you are managing distrust. You never want to manage distrust because distrust spreads quickly. Now, let's talk about why this matters beyond one situation here, because it isn't just about a set of documents. This is about precedent. If leadership can decide what to release and what to hold back without any type of clear, concise explanation, the transparency that you talk about and say that you have appears to be optional. And once transparency becomes optional, accountability becomes weak. And when accountability is weak, you don't fix problems, you got to hide them. That's the real concern here. Now, this story is not new. History has shown us over and over again, it's not always the original issue that causes the most damage. It's the cover up. It's the delay. It's the moment where people realize, wait, why didn't we see this information sooner? And at that moment, that is the moment where trust breaks. Now let's bring back to the present, because right now people aren't just asking for information. They're asking for clarity. They're asking what's in the files that Brandon Scott is trying to hide. Why haven't we seen these files that Brandon Scott is trying to hide? And who made the decision that it was okay for Brandon Scott to hide them? Because let's just be honest, those are fair questions. Again, this isn't private business. This is public leadership. And let me just come off script one time and just say this. If you think that it's just Brandon Scott that is doing this, let me tell you something. To achieve this type of cover up and this type of media publicity, there is more than just him. It's not about who he's protecting. It is who is doing the dirt and setting him up to be the fall guy. He is ultimately an scapegoat in this mess. Public leadership, no matter whether you're the scapegoat or not, you could be the risen savior himself. Public leadership requires public accountability. Now, this is where things start to get super uncomfortable and your draws start to itch, because once this conversation starts, it doesn't stay contained. It expands like a hydrogen bomb. So let's talk about what expansion look like. People start looking deeper. They start asking about patterns. People start connecting dots from past situations, because let's just face it, people are not stupid by any means. Okay. And now what started as one specific issue turns into a broader examination of not only the leader himself, but the leadership, meaning him, his staff, and everybody that is involved in this matter. Because how this is handled will define and move on not just this situation. It's more than that. It will define credibility down the road. And here is the reality that nobody wants to deal with. There are only two ways that this goes. Either the information comes out fully, clearly, and transparently, and the people can evaluate it for themselves, or it continues to be delayed, limited, and controlled, and the narrative gets filled in by speculation. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to come off script for a little bit. I'm an unbiased voice in this matter, being a libertarian black fella from the West Side. Here's the bottom line. All of y'all that were talking about the Epstein files now are now quiet when it comes to these files. And the only thing I can take from that is you don't like the Republican white dude, so we're going to crucify him. But when it comes to Brandon Scott, y'all want to hush, hush, hush. You can't have this thing both ways. And if you think that this is not going to come back and bite not only Baltimore and Brandon Scott, but the Democrat Party and Black America as a whole that rests under that Democrat Party, you got another thing coming. So listen. Any speculation that comes down, all right, now that I'm back on script here, is always worse than the truth that actually exists, even when the truth isn't perfect. So here's what I'm going to say. You know, you can compare this to the Epstein files if you want to. The bottom line is this. It's like comparing Bill Cosby to his white counterparts. You already know things that we do get treated and looked at a little bit different. You got to focus on the narrative that's going to make you look the best. And the reality is the smartest move in this situation is simple. You got to put this information on the street. All right. All of it. Not some of it, not a little bit, not what you only want to make you look good, but all of it. Let the public see it and let the public decide, because leadership is not about controlling a narrative. He's way beyond that at this point. Not only that, he just don't have the money to do it. Let's just call it a spade, okay? It is at this point about standing on the narrative. And right now, that's the test, not just for one office, not just for one situation, but for what transparency actually means moving forward. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. If this becomes the norm, then the public stops expecting honesty. And once expectations drop, so does accountability. And when that happens, the system doesn't correct itself anymore. You know what it does? Go listen to my other show. It goes back into a cycle and repeats. So this moment, it matters. Not because of the headlines, not because of the controversy, because of what it represents. That's why. It's a choice. It's a choice between transparency and this thing called control. We're going to talk about that in another episode. And whichever one wins here will echo far beyond this situation, this administration, and this tiny town we call Baltimore.